The platypus is a beloved animal to many Australians. Residents and tourists alike visit popular platypus viewing spots in the Atherton Tablelands to try and catch a glimpse of the elusive monitoring. Platypods aren't just culturally significant either. They play an important role in river ecosystems by helping to maintain habitat structure and regulate prey populations.
Unfortunately, platypus numbers are in decline. Human activities in Australia, including northern Queensland, pose a threat to population numbers. As more land is cleared and used for agricultural activities, there has been an increase in environmental degradation, including in the rivers.
Despite these challenges, platypus continue to inhabit and reproduce in degraded areas, such as polluted farmland and polluted urban waterways.
In the Atherton Tablelands, quite a lot of the land that's suitable for agriculture must have impacted the streams that flow through those regions. The riparian vegetation is often gone. There's a lot of weed growth, sometimes aquatic weeds, so that agricultural activities must have had an impact.
Although there's some existing research on the platypus in New South Wales and Victoria, there's almost no research on the platypus in the wet tropics.
Monitoring is important for the platypus conservation because it allows us to understand the habitat requirements of the species. And without knowledge of the habitat requirements, you can't preserve a species.
Before we started the monitoring process, we talked to David and Dermot to get a better idea of what habitat variables to look at.
They depend very much on the aquatic environment and the terrestrial environment. So that makes them different from a lot of species. And so we need to have good riparian vegetation. We need to have stable creek banks so they can dig burrows. We need to have clean water.
By comparing the regions where platypods are known to reside here in the Atherton Tablelands, we will be able to understand what habitat requirements are necessary for the platypods in the wet tropics.
To assess what habitat types platypus can live in, we looked at regions where platypus sightings occurred frequently. Within these waterways, we examined and analyzed the prey availability and water quality.
We examined 5 different sites, 2 along Peterson Creek, 1 at Iggy's Nature Refuge, and 2 along Barron River. We took 4 representative samples of benthic macroinvertebrates, the platypus's main food source, at each site. To do so, one person stood downstream and held a net, while another person stood upstream and agitated the sediment underneath. We also measured pH, turbidity, conductivity, dissolved oxygen, and water temperature. These water quality measurements affect macroinvertebrate populations, and consequently, the platypus's ability to forage. Back at the lab, macroinvertebrates were identified to the lowest taxonomic level and classified based on their pollution sensitivity. Collecting data from a river comes with its own set of challenges. At our final site along Barron River, our macroinvertebrate net broke, and the river's fast current prevented a final replicate from being taken.
Our results showed a weak but positive correlation between macroinvertebrate type richness and number of observations. This could indicate that platypus in the wet tropics are more selective feeders than elsewhere. This deviates from past studies of platypus from other parts of Australia, which have found that platypus are opportunistic feeders. These results could also be due to the remote nature of Site 3. Unlike Peterson Creek and Barron River, which are both home to popular viewing spots, Site 3 was in a remote location. It's possible that the platypus was disturbed by us, which could limit observation counts. We also found a significant difference in pH, dissolved oxygen, and turbidity across the different sites. The fact that platypods were present at all these sites, despite these significantly different levels, indicates that platypods are resilient to differing levels of water quality. This supports previous studies, which find that platypus can adapt to poor water quality.
However, our study was conducted over a limited time frame. Future researchers may benefit from conducting studies with more replicates and of sites with more variability. By picking new sites with more differences between them, future researchers may gain a better understanding of how different site traits impact platypus habitat.
Although our results aren't conclusive, we hope our study in habitat requirements for the platypus in northern Queensland will provide helpful background information for future researchers.
It's an important pilot study for researchers, and I hope that future researchers come to us and our students here at the School for Field Studies, Center for Rainforest Studies, can contribute to data collection.
By better understanding what habitat requirements are necessary for platypus to survive, we can protect them against the impacts of climate change, agriculture, and urbanization. We can't conserve what we do not understand, so bridging this knowledge gap about tropical platypus is necessary for protecting this beloved animal.